If arrogance built empires, they would never fall. Napoleon crowned himself. Caesar called himself a god. They both died betrayed. So what if the reason you're overlooked? What if the reason you're overlooked is the very thing that makes you unstoppable? In a world that rewards noise, it's easy to believe that louder means stronger, but history tells a different story. The men who ruled with ego often fell by their own hand. The ones who endured did something else entirely. This is not about being soft. It is about knowing when to step back so your strength can speak for itself. Today we explore the quiet force that reshapes empires without ever needing to shout. Stay with me. The truth might just change how you lead. 1. Machiavelli's hidden weapon, the power of a humble mask. When you hear the name Niccolo Machiavelli, what comes to mind? Ruthlessness, cunning, a man who believed power was to be seized, not earned. That image isn't wrong, but it's incomplete. Beneath his sharp political insight was a deeper understanding of human nature, and one of his most underestimated lessons is this: humility, when used wisely, is not weakness, it is strategy. In The Prince, Machiavelli doesn't champion arrogance. Quite the opposite. He advises rulers to appear compassionate, faithful, and just, even if in truth they are calculating, cold, and focused solely on survival. Why? Because he understood what Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus taught centuries before. Perception governs reality, and if you can master perception, you can govern almost anything. Humility, then, is not just a virtue for monks and martyrs. It is a silent weapon. It disarms enemies before they strike. It builds trust without revealing your full hand. The Stoics called this discipline of assent, the art of choosing what judgments you accept and what masks you wear before the world. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Machiavelli knew this too, but inverted it. If you color others' perception of you, you dye the world to your advantage. Think of a lion in sheep's clothing, not as deception, but as wisdom in restraint. A humble mask conceals your ambition, shields your intentions, and keeps others from raising their guard. When you appear gentle, no one prepares for war. When you act calm, even while planning your next strategic move, no one suspects the fire beneath your stillness. Seneca once warned, "It is a great thing to know the season for speech and the season for silence." Machiavelli understood this timing not only in words, but in posture, in presence, in image. A humble man can enter any room. An arrogant man is watched. One moves freely, the other is boxed in by his ego. This is not softness, this is subtlety, not submission, but control. And if your aim is to endure, to rule, or simply to protect what matters most, you must learn when to lower your eyes, not because you are afraid, but because you see more than they think you do. In a world obsessed with appearing powerful, the truly wise learn this ancient paradox. Humility, when chosen, is the ultimate form of control. 2. The Stoic stream, humility over force. Long before the tactics of Machiavelli, the Stoics taught a quieter form of power. Not the force that bends others to your will, but the strength that bends with the world without breaking. Picture water. It does not shout. It does not resist. And yet, over time, it shapes stone, nourishes life, and survives every fire. This is the power of humility, not as a virtue for saints, but as a force of nature. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." That is not weakness. It is the courage to go unnoticed while you gather your strength. It is the quiet discipline of someone who no longer needs applause to stay committed. Just like water seeks the lowest ground, the humble person is willing to serve, to listen, to yield, not because they lack power, but because they have mastered it. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet wrote in private that a man should be like the rock against which the waves break, and it stands firm. But he also knew when to let the wave pass through. He did not react to insult, did not demand praise. He understood that dignity is not found in performance, but in presence. Humility, through the Stoic lens, is not submission, it is control without the need to control others. Seneca taught that it is better to conquer yourself than to conquer cities. And humility is the battlefield on which that war is won. It keeps your ego in check. It protects you from the illusions of dominance. It grants you the patience to act when the time is right, and the strength to wait when it is not. Consider a tree that bends in the wind. It survives the storm because it does not resist it. Likewise, the humble man does not crumble under pressure. He adjusts, he observes, he outlasts. In a world where so many try to rise by force, the Stoic rises by becoming part of the order of things, not passive but aligned with nature, not loud but undeniable. And in the end, when others are exhausted from the fight for recognition, the humble are still standing, still growing, still quietly reshaping the world around them. If you wish to endure, if you wish to lead, start not by elevating yourself, but by lowering your stance. That is where the river begins, and that is where the strongest lives are built. 3. The silent blade, humility as strategic strength. Machiavelli understood something most rulers forget. The greatest power is not always the one that announces itself. It is the one that remains silent until its work is already done. In The Prince, he writes that a wise leader must learn to hide his intentions, to appear mild while being fierce. This is not deceit, it is discipline. And it echoes the deeper Stoic truth. Strength is not in noise, but in control. Epictetus taught, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. The truly strong do not react. They do not reveal their hand. They study, they wait, they remain underestimated until the moment of decision. And when that moment comes, their action is not desperate. It is deliberate. The Stoic general does not charge into the field covered in armor and pride. He enters as the servant of reason. He chooses the time. He controls the terrain, not through domination, but through understanding. His humility is not an absence of strength, but the refusal to misuse it. Picture this. 2 leaders prepare for conflict. One boasts. He shows his troops, his gold, his banners. He wants to be feared before the battle begins. The other listens in silence. He allows the world to misjudge him. He seems unsure, unthreatening. But inside, he is calculating, adjusting, waiting. One acts for the applause of the crowd. The other acts for the outcome. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy, and the best strike is not the first one, but the one no one saw coming." Humility, when guided by wisdom, becomes the cloak that covers the blade. And because the blade is hidden, it is feared even when it is not drawn. Seneca believed that the wise man is prepared for all outcomes, yet never rushed into action. This is why the humble commander is more dangerous than the arrogant one. Arrogance assumes, humility observes. The man who appears small, who accepts delay, who seems to retreat, he may simply be choosing his moment. And when he strikes, it will not be with noise or fury. It will be with finality. Humility is not the absence of will. It is the will, sharpened and sheathed. It is power, silent and sovereign. It does not seek recognition, it seeks results. So let others shout. Let them posture, let them rush into battles they do not understand. Your task is to remain still, to prepare, to strike only when it counts. And when you do, you will not need to explain your strength. The outcome will speak for you. Be like the Stoic warrior, invisible until necessary, humble until it is time. Then let your final move be so clear, so absolute, that nothing else needs to follow. 4. The strength to restrain, humility as moral power. History remembers conquest, but it reveres restraint. In 1187, Saladin reclaimed Jerusalem after years of war, betrayal, and brutality. The city had once witnessed a massacre at the hands of crusaders that left generations haunted. Many expected blood. Many demanded vengeance. But Saladin made a choice that transformed him from a commander into a legend. He offered mercy. He protected his enemies. He spared the churches of those who had defiled his own. And in that moment, he wielded a greater power than any sword could offer. This is not just a story of virtue, it is a lesson in Stoic strength. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Saladin embodied this truth. When retaliation would have been easy, when anger would have been justified, he chose mastery of the self. And that decision echoed beyond borders, beyond faith, even winning the respect of Richard the Lionheart, who called him a noble enemy. To the Stoics, greatness is not defined by dominance, but by discipline. Epictetus taught that no man is free who is not master of himself. And here we see it clearly. Saladin did not withhold vengeance because he lacked the means. He withheld it because he possessed something rarer, inner command. His victory was not just over a city, but over himself. And that's the kind of power that endures. Machiavelli, though often associated with calculated force, warned that cruelty should be swift and rare, and that mercy, when wisely displayed, earns loyalty more effectively than fear. A ruler who knows when to show restraint secures something no army can capture: legitimacy. Saladin's mercy was not softness. It was calculated, controlled, and undeniably transformative. Imagine for a moment if he had chosen otherwise. Another massacre. Another chapter in a cycle of revenge. Another name in a long list of warlords. But because he rose above the impulse to destroy, he became something more. A standard, a measure, a reminder that true power does not always strike. Sometimes it forgives. Seneca said, "He who has injured thee was either stronger or weaker than thee. If weaker, spare him. If stronger, spare thyself." Saladin spared both. He ended the battle in such a way that no further battle was needed. This is the essence of Stoic leadership. You do not prove strength by crushing what stands before you. You prove it by knowing when not to strike and having the discipline to follow through. The humble leader walks away from easy victories in order to win something greater, peace that lasts, and a legacy that speaks without needing to be defended. In a world obsessed with domination, be the one who rules through restraint. That is how the humble win, not once, but forever. 5. Quiet leaders, lasting empires. In today's world of noise and speed, humility is often mistaken for irrelevance. Leaders speak louder, brands shine brighter, confidence is praised while restraint is overlooked. But beneath the surface, the most enduring power still belongs to the quietest force in the room, and the Stoics knew this long before modern institutions caught up. True leadership, according to Marcus Aurelius, begins with self-mastery. "It is not death that a man should fear," he wrote, "but never beginning to live according to reason." And what is reason if not the ability to see clearly, to accept criticism, to listen more than one speaks? The humble leader is not silent because he lacks opinion. He's silent because he values truth more than pride. He sees leadership not as a stage, but as a responsibility. Even Machiavelli, who warned rulers to be cunning, also emphasized adaptability. He urged leaders to be like the fox and the lion, but most of all, to read the winds of change. And in our age, the winds are data, complexity, and volatility. The leader who pretends to know everything is the first to fall. The one who listens, the one who adapts, survives. Modern organizations are starting to reflect this ancient wisdom. A 2014 study published in the Journal of Management found that CEOs who were rated as humble by their teams led companies with stronger collaboration, higher innovation, and lower turnover. But this is not surprising to a Stoic. Epictetus taught that no man learns while speaking. Only in stillness can wisdom be received. The humble leader makes space for others to contribute. He is not threatened by superior minds. He invites them. In practice, this looks like a ruler who surrounds himself with people better than him in specific areas, not to dominate them, but to elevate the mission. It is the opposite of tyranny. It is the construction of something lasting. Seneca reminded us that time reveals all things, and that character outlasts charisma. Flash may gather a crowd, but only integrity builds a culture. And culture is what holds an empire when the leader is gone. The humble leader is not moved by applause nor shaken by insult. He builds slowly, with intention. He allows correction. He welcomes dissent. Because he knows that real strength lies not in being always right, but in being willing to grow. And through that growth, he earns trust. Quietly, consistently, permanently. So if you want to lead in a world that never stops shouting, learn first to be still. Choose humility not because it looks good, but because it works. Not because it softens you, but because it sharpens you. Then watch as others follow, not out of fear, but out of respect. That is how empires last. That is how the humble rule. 6. Marcus Aurelius versus Caligula. Humility anchors, ego destroys. The throne tests a man more than the battlefield, and few thrones have held greater temptation than that of Rome. Marcus Aurelius, philosopher king and Stoic exemplar, ruled the greatest empire on earth. He had armies at his command, the Senate at his feet, and a divine title by law. Yet every morning he returned to his journal, not to boast, but to remind himself, "You are just a man, one breath away from death." He wrote not for praise, but for discipline. "Do not waste time arguing what a good man should be," he urged. "Be one." This was not the voice of a ruler drunk on his own authority. It was the voice of a man who understood that power without humility leads only to ruin. His strength was not in domination, but in restraint. He feared not the enemy at the gate, but the pride within his own heart. So he trained himself to serve the empire without serving his ego. That is what made him mighty. His reign endured with remarkable stability, not because of spectacle, but because of stillness. He ruled through clarity, not control, through reason, not impulse. His name is still spoken with respect, not out of fear, but admiration. That is the legacy of humility in power. Now contrast him with Caligula, a man who wore the same purple robe, sat on the same marble throne, but embodied the opposite of Stoic wisdom. Where Marcus turned inward to examine his soul, Caligula turned outward to demand worship. He ordered temples built in his name, declared war on the ocean, and punished silence as treason. His rule was not leadership. It was theater, grand, unstable, hollow. Machiavelli warned that a ruler must avoid being hated and despised, and that cruelty, if necessary, must be swift and justified. Caligula violated both. He believed himself untouchable, above law, above consequence, but no man escapes the reality he refuses to face. His guards, the very hands that once saluted him, became the ones that ended him. What Stoicism teaches us through this contrast is simple but vital. Ego blinds, humility sees. Caligula silenced voices of caution and drowned in delusion. Marcus listened, reflected, and endured. One ruled for 4 years and fell to a dagger. The other ruled for nearly 2 decades and left behind words that still lead others centuries later. Dynasties are not built on arrogance, they are built on insight. Humility is not passivity. It is clarity under pressure. It is choosing to be ruled by reason when emotion calls for indulgence. And in the chaos of leadership, that is the only anchor strong enough to hold. So if you ever rise to power, in life, in work, in spirit, remember this: you are never more vulnerable than when you believe you are untouchable. Humility is not what holds you back. It is what keeps you from falling. 7. The rule of the quiet. Humility across time. There are moments in history when power does not shout, but still reshapes the world. The Prophet Muhammad, at the height of his influence, lived with radical simplicity. He mended his own clothes. He sat on the ground beside his companions. He walked among the poor with the same ease as among rulers. His strength was not worn like a crown. It radiated quietly from the discipline he kept within. His followers loved him not because he commanded it, but because he never needed to. He led with restraint. He ruled with justice. And in doing so, he built not just a following, but a foundation. A civilization rooted in mercy and clarity. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you will always look there. That strength is humility, and Muhammad lived it." Now consider Gandhi. He had no army, no office, no wealth, just a spine of stillness. A will that refused to surrender its soul in the face of empire. His salt march was not a protest. It was a reminder that you do not need to dominate to be free. You only need to remember who you are. He met force not with retaliation, but with restraint. And that restraint echoed louder than any speech. Epictetus taught that it is not the events themselves that disturb us, but our judgment of them. Gandhi judged with patience, acted with control, and inspired with nothing but presence. Now contrast this with Hitler. He ruled with noise. He demanded loyalty, silenced dissent, and mistook obedience for greatness. His pride was not strength, it was blindness. While Gandhi walked in silence and changed the world, Hitler shouted until his own empire burned. Machiavelli warned that fear may bring control, but only briefly. What is built through terror crumbles when terror fades. Gandhi and Muhammad never ruled through fear, yet their names live on, not in conquest, but in conscience. That is the reach of humility. It moves slowly, but it moves forever. The quiet do not rise to be seen. They rise because they cannot be shaken. 8. Stillness wins. Tim Cook's quiet triumph. In the noise of modern leadership, where influence is often confused with performance and visibility mistaken for value, Tim Cook stands as a quiet force. He did not arrive with grandeur. He did not try to imitate Steve Jobs' flair. In fact, many believed he was too restrained, too methodical, too invisible to fill the shoes of a legend. But history writes its chapters not in noise, but in outcomes. While others chased headlines, Cook chased clarity. While others branded themselves loudly, he refined the product. Under his stewardship, Apple became the first company to surpass $3 trillion in value, not by spectacle, by substance. To the untrained eye, his leadership looks soft. To the Stoic, it is steel under silence. Epictetus taught that the wise man does not show off his virtue, he lives it. Tim Cook did not need to roar to move markets. His voice was precision, his posture, discipline. Like Marcus Aurelius, who led Rome not by fire but by example, Cook understood that control begins not with others, but with the self. He did not seek to be adored, he sought to be accurate, and that accuracy built something unshakable. Machiavelli, though often associated with cunning, advised rulers to maintain the appearance of virtue and govern with efficiency. Tim Cook's humility is that strategy in action. He revealed that restraint is not hesitation, but focus. That not declaring war is sometimes how you win it. That stepping carefully is not fear, it is mastery. There is a kind of magnetism in silence when it is backed by competence. It draws attention without asking. It commands respect without demanding. Seneca reminds us that no man is free if he is a slave to approval. The humble do not perform for applause. They work while others posture, and they rise, not because they shouted louder, but because they built deeper. Think of a mountain. It does not move. It does not speak, but it shapes the wind around it. That is what humility looks like in the modern arena, not shrinking into shadows, but anchoring into purpose, not hiding from pressure, but rising through it. Tim Cook did not build a brand, he built a foundation. And that's the difference between fleeting influence and enduring legacy. So the next time you are tempted to prove yourself through noise, remember this: real strength moves without shouting. True confidence does not demand to be seen. It lets the results speak. The humble do not need to declare their greatness. They simply build it. And when the winds of change come, what is rooted will remain. In a world that rewards noise, you chose stillness. In a culture obsessed with being seen, you chose to build in silence. That is not weakness, it is power under control. If this message spoke to you, type "stay quiet" in the comments. And if you're ready to keep growing with clarity, not chaos, subscribe now. Your path is different for a reason. Walk it with intention. The next step is waiting, and it begins with a single quiet move.